Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing good. Today I've got a very exciting guest. We've tried to do this for a little while, so it's finally good to have the time to do this. I'm joined by Harry by Scarfy Spurs Talk, who you'll probably recognise him from his channel. We'll chat a bit about Spurs, a bit about Arsenal today. But thank you for joining me. How are you doing?
I'm very good, thank you, Sophie. I hope you're well, and thank you very much for having me. And yeah, I've seen the incredible work you're doing, so it's fantastic to get on your channel. I mean, you've had so many excellent people on there, so honestly, it's an honour to be on. So thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you so much, and the same to you with your channel. I think you're doing amazing. I thought before we do chat a bit about Spurs and Arsenal, I thought you could tell people a bit about your channel, what sort of stuff you do, so they can go and check it out.
Yeah, thank you very much. So, firstly, I'm a football content creator. So I'm on all platforms such as X, Instagram, TikTok at Harry Scarf 22. But I also have my own channel, Scarfy Spurs Talk, which on X or Twitter, as you call it, is a Spurs news page. Also a YouTube channel and podcast as well on YouTube. That's Scarfy Spurs Talk. So that's what I do, and also I'm an advocate for autism, being autistic myself. So that's also away from the football content creating. So no, I really enjoy what I do, and yeah, the growth has been much appreciated. And we now have a team at Scarfy Spurs of admins, of graphic designers and thumbnail designers, which are put together in the last month or two. So that's been fantastic. So I have a very hard-working team, and it's been a fantastic year so far. So that's where you can find me. So yeah, thank you very much, Sophie.
Oh, you're very welcome. I love that as well. And you're doing really good. So please do check it out before we do chat a bit about Spurs and Arsenal. And I thought I could start off by talking a bit about Spurs because I know you have made a signing. And, I think in pre season, I've noticed, you're doing pretty good. And I think it would be good to start off with the signings. I know you signed Yang Min Hoik from Gamwalk FC, and obviously he's a winger. And thought you could just tell me a bit about the signing. How do you feel about it? Do you feel like it would be a good signing going into the season?
Yeah, I think so. And I think there's two ways of looking at it. And I think you have to look at it in a positive way with our
Yeah,
window and also the signing. A lot of it is about the future, but it's quite exciting. We know that potentially, he keeps hinting at it, that Pep Guardiola could leave at the end of next season. So the teams at Arsenal and Spurs, they get a good transfer window. Yeah,
yeah,
we could be sitting here in 12, 18 months' time in a really good position, ready to challenge. So I think it's a good signing. 18-year-old is a winger. He's absolutely ripping it up in the K League. He's had a really good pre-season. We're talking about 6-8 goal contributions, and we know that pre-season that is pretty impressive. But also they're
yeah,
about 24, 25 games through their season, because their season works different than us, and these numbers are really good not only for the season but also for 2024. So it's a good signing. But he's 18 years old. I don't think he'll come in and get many
yeah,
minutes. I think he'll come in January as an option to have off the bench. And I think we can say the same with our other signing, Archie Gray from Leeds, where we paid a lot of money. And I was doubtful at the time, but based on what I've seen in pre-season, I can understand how excited Leeds fans were. He looks like a real player who can play 3 or 4 different positions. So it's been a good window if I'm thinking about what the team could look like, 2025, 2026 and
yeah,
beyond. But we also need to sign players for now, because
mm,
we want to compete in the latter stages of the Europa League, and we want to try and get back in that top 4. And at the moment, we don't have 2 good players in every position, which you do really need. So young players, fantastic. The future, fantastic. Now it's about improving the first team. But yeah, the signing you mentioned, he looks really good. I don't
mm,
know that much about him, but he's
yeah.
absolutely ripping it up in the K League.
Yeah, I think I think it'll be a really good signing. I think it's good that you are starting to make these signings because I know, I'm sure you'll want to get top four and, do as well as you can. So I do think that would be a good signing. But for you in the summer, like, how many signings do you think you need to make? Because I think last season, if you look on, as someone outside, I know I'm an Arsenal fan, but if you look at it, you didn't have a bad season, really. I mean, I know top four would have been better, but I didn't look at it and think, you did bad. I think how did you reflect on that season, like going into next season?
I think it was a really good season. I think
Yeah,
we didn't end it very well. There's no secret, and there's no secret that we threw away top 4 as well to Aston Villa. It was there
yeah,
if we wanted it, and we didn't take it. But I think overall, you have to think back to when Ange Postecoglou came into the job, or before he was appointed, and having finished 8th, it's the first time we haven't been in Europe in my lifetime. That's 14, 15 years that we had finished outside
yeah,
of Europe. So it was a bad season the season before last. So
yeah.
coming into the season, there was a lot of worry. We lost Harry Kane as well. So if you said
Yeah,
to
you
me
had
at
to
the
deal with
start of that
that.
season, Sophie, finish 5th, I would have gone, yeah, absolutely take that. So I think overall it's a good season, and it was under Andrew. We yeah, it was a really young team. We learned a lot, and then this season it's about getting back into top four. So we've done a lot
Yeah,
better than I thought. But answering your other question about the transfer window, I think what we've done so far, fantastic. I think we need three other players,
mm,
and I think that what it looks like is left back cover. So it's not spending ridiculous money. We're talking 10, 15, 20 million on a left back cover. It could be if we keep regular on the club to do that, but a dog is a young player to play all the Premier League games, all the Europa League games in all competitions, which it looks like isn't really going to work. But I think the main area we need to improve is that forward line and the way that Ange plays. Because there's so many games last season we couldn't kill the game, couldn't get the second
yeah,
goal. We're going to drop points. Like Wolves away is a prime example. We went 1-0 up. We were winning into the 91st minute. And not only did we drop 2 points, we dropped all three and lost 2-1. And that's the frustrating thing, because we couldn't quite get the second goal. So I think it's left back
yeah,
cover, it's a striker, and it's a winger as well. So if I could choose names, it'd probably be something like Tony,
yeah.
Neto, and Alfie Doherty of Luton.
Yeah, I know with Tony, I mean, I know a lot of Arsenal fans did want him, but I feel like I could see it happening, him going to Spurs. I think that would be an excellent signing. I think, like you said, I think if you brought a striker in, if you made a few additions, I think you could definitely get top four. I think that would be a good aim for you guys next season. And I wanted to speak about some players you might want to move on. I mean, I know Emerson Royale's another one. I've seen that he's been linked to a few teams, AC Milan, and I wanted to get your thoughts on what you've made of him at Spurs, because I know Arsenal, before you got him, I thought we were going to buy him at one point, then we bought Tomiyasu, and I was sort of prepared to, when Arsenal were going to get Emerson Royale, and then I was obviously really, happy with Tomiyasu, but looking sort of what he's done so far, how would you reflect on Emerson Royale's sort of time at Spurs? Do you think it's gone better than what you thought, or do you think that you've been a bit disappointed with how he's performed?
I don't want to necessarily be harsh. I think that you signed the better player
Mm,
overall looking at now, and I think that's quite clear to see, even if it's
yeah,
Spurs or Arsenal. So Emerson, it hasn't gone as expected, and he's like Brazilian without that kind of flair. But no, all jokes aside, he's someone who gives 110%. He's a
mm,
likable character. He's just not. He's not the player that's going to get you to that next level, and he's only ever
yeah,
going to be cover. And really, he can go to other leagues and get first team minutes. It doesn't make sense with it being here at Tottenham, but we paid a little bit for him, and we're not going to get really half back what we paid. So a bit
yeah,
frustrating. I wouldn't call his time disastrous, because there's
mm,
sometimes where he pocketed players like Bernardo Silva, and he had really
yeah,
good days. But we're talking about consistency, like he had a game at Anfield where he was at fault for 3 of the goals. So his problem is consistency, and he really want first team minutes. It's not disastrous, but it's a player that
mm,
can't be playing if you want to be getting top four or want to be eventually
yeah,
winning trophies. So, but Tomiyasu, I think he's really,
mm.
really good. I liked him at the time. He's been unlucky with injuries, but I think there'll be
Yeah.
something there this season.
Yeah, I think it's always hard, especially I always say when you come from a different league, you kind of don't know how it's going to go. I mean, with injuries as well, Arsenal have got quite a lot of players that are injured quite a lot. I mean, like we said, Tomiyasu, like he's one of my favourite signings from like Arteta's time, and it's obviously tough. But I think you make a good point about Emerson Royale. It's probably he won't take you to that next level. He won't win you, leagues and stuff, but I suppose he's a good kind of squad player to have. But I think as well for Spurs. I mean Arsenal as well. It's good to kind of be ruthless as well and get some players out
Yeah,
that might not necessarily are able to take you to that level. I mean for Arsenal, I think we should just be ruthless now. Look, like we're getting rid of Smith Rowe, which is quite a interesting one because a lot of us, I mean, are 50-50 about it. I see it on both sides. I see it as it's a good way to
yeah.
make money, but I also see it as like, what if, we could have became a legend, but I don't really see that working out. But what are your thoughts on sort of the Smith Rowe situation? Like, do you think it's a good thing now for him to maybe get some game time at Fulham?
Yeah, I do think it is. I think there's a player there. There's no question about it. It's kind of
Mm,
Arsenal guaranteeing in first team minutes. It's a no. And we talk about being ruthless, and in particular, Arsenal have to do that because we've seen the juggernaut that Man City is, and you just have to be ruthless. And I think it'll be funny with players like Nketiah, where you go Reece Nelson, who they
mm,
just aren't quite ready for that step up. You just have to go. You have to go. You have to make harsh decisions in football.
yeah,
I think that step up is huge. Nketiah has been given a lot of opportunities by Arteta. Has never really caught the eye. He's had old moments again. But I don't think I think Arsenal will be better than that,
Yeah.
maybe better than Jesus as well. They need two good strikers, and Nketiah is not going to guarantee you those goals. But Smith Rowe, I think, is a good signing from Fulham. Obviously, they've got Sessegnon as a free agent from
Yeah.
Spurs. Yeah, I look at it similar in a way in terms of
Mm.
neither of them are going to walk into the first team straight away. They're both going to be impact off the bench. They're
Yeah.
both gone for first team minutes. So I think Fulham are having a really good window, by the way. They're one of it. Only a few
Yeah.
clubs like Aston Villa and West Ham as well can probably join them in that conversation. But you have to be ruthless. Arsenal have done that. And you look at teams that win trophies, that they've always been ruthless along the way. They've gone, no, you're not good enough, or you just have to take that split decision. It's like with Tottenham with Richarlison,
Mm.
right? I like him. I'd love to keep him as backup striker, but if Saudi Arabia come in and we get the same or more or near what we paid for him, like we're talking 50, 55 million or beyond,
Yeah.
you have to accept that because no other club's going to pay that. You just have to be ruthless and find someone better because he's not going to. Gets too
Yeah.
injury prone, and he's not going to get you guaranteed goals. So I think Arsenal made the right decision. It will hurt because
Mm.
Arsenal fans will want nothing more than to see a team of Sakas, Smith Rowe,
Mm.
homegrown players. It's what we all want as fans. I totally
Yeah.
understand and get that, but it sadly doesn't always work out like that. And it's the right move, I think, for all parties.
Yeah, I think as well, like with Man City, if they were in our position, I think they would get rid of Smith Rowe too. I think you've got to be ruthless. I mean, especially, when you compete with Man City, like, I know their squad is a lot bigger than ours and they have more options, but I think for us, we've got to sort of have the right options coming off the bench. Like, I know if when we are competing with Man City, we've got to go that step further. So I think with Smith Rowe, like, it's obviously a bit sad, but I feel more like it's the right thing to do because I think obviously getting 34 million, I think that's pretty
That's
decent.
good.
Yeah, I
Mm.
think like that's a good amount of money, considering how amazing he's been. And you look at the injury he's had throughout the season, and they're still happy to pay that amount. So I think that's obviously a good thing. And I know for Spurs, I wanted to actually touch on a bit about the season coming up because how are you feeling about going into the new season? Like I know we mentioned before, the preseason, you've not done too bad. It's obviously preseason's a lot different to when the actual games come up because I always think it's nice to see your team back, but it's obviously different when you're actually in the season when it starts. So, what would you say your expectations are of the season as well? Because I know for Spurs, it would be a great chance for them to win trophies as well, whether that's an FA Cup, a League Cup. So, how are you sort of feeling going into the new season?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I think the minimum requirement is getting back into top four. Villa will have Champions League as well to juggle that. Yeah, we
Yeah.
should be able to leapfrog them. I know they've been very active in the transfer window, but you can look at it two ways with Villa. You can go, oh, they brought in Onana, they brought in a couple of exciting young players, but they've also let Douglas Luiz and Diaby go. So they haven't got squad depth. They've maybe slightly improved their 11. So I think the minimum requirement for Spurs is getting into top four and it sounds silly in a way, but respecting other cup competitions. Because I look at
Yeah.
last season, Sophie, and Angie's biggest mistake, round 2 of the League Cup, where we made, I think it was 9-10 changes and we got knocked out on penalties. And that was just an opportunity missed because Fulham then had a really easy run, next 3, 4, 5 games. And we would have quite easily got to the quarterfinals, semi-finals. That's a frustrating thing. When you haven't won a trophy since 2008, you have to show more respect. So that's all about adding depth. So at the
Yeah.
moment, I think the minimum requirement is probably top four. But the only thing I am worried about is we haven't improved our start 11. I think it's a thing all around the Premier League. But I thought the new
Yeah.
stadium would be allowed to spend. FFP says that we can spend 350, 400 million, if not beyond, without touching FFP. And before those
Mm.
restrictions come in, which I think they will in a year or two time, I think we have to spend that money now. So there's a lot that needs improving, but it's just glad that other teams around us have had quiet windows. Chelsea don't look in a great place. I know it's only pre-season.
Yeah.
Man United, I could say the same, arguably. So yeah, top four minimum requirement, and just a bit of progression in cup
Yeah.
competitions. Not going to be a fan that sits and goes, "Oh, we have to win," but we have to show big, like Europa League. You want to be seeing as close to the
Mm.
first team, or giving it a go and getting to the latter stages. There's no reason why we can't get to Europa League quarterfinal, semi-final if we
Yeah.
we treat it seriously. So it's about back respect and top four.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same with Arsenal with cup competitions. Like, I think we do respect them, but I think when it comes to like the FA Cup, I think it's a trophy that Arsenal, have won quite a lot. And I think, what, I know we've got to go for the league, and I know the Champions League's in the mix as well. But I think realistically, Arsenal could definitely win. I think anyone can win anything. In the Premier League, like
Yeah.
Spurs could easily, go for it with the FA Cup, with the League Cup. I think I think you've got to put a quite strong team out, because there will be teams that come up maybe from a championship that want to really go far in that. So I think it's exciting when we go through these different cup competitions. But I think like FA Cups, I love an FA Cup. I think they're so amazing. I know they're not quite a league, or they're not exactly a Champions League, but I think it's amazing. And yeah, I think as well for Spurs, I think the Europa League. I mean, I think for you guys, it's probably the right competition to be in, and I think you could definitely get to a semi-final, a final. I think a lot of it does depend on sort of the summer what you bring in, because I know a few seasons back with Kane, that saga, everything that happened, and you look at your team now as well. I mean, Richarlison, like you mentioned, it's another one with him. I mean, I've always. I wanted him a few seasons back. I always felt like he was a
Mm.
very good player, but I think as well, I don't think he's consistent enough, and I know he's had injuries as well. So I think as well, both teams are at the stage now where we need to be kind of ruthless going into the season.
Yeah.
But I definitely think Spurs will improve next season. I think top four for you guys, it's going to be. I think it'll be interesting as well with top four next season, because I know Liverpool have got a new manager as well. I'm not feeling confident that Chelsea will do much better next season from what I've seen in
No.
the pre-season, but I think United have got to have a better season.
Yeah.
I don't think they'll get top four. I reckon you guys will get ahead of them, but I'm just excited to see the Premier League, come back. I'm excited to see what will happen. But I wanted to actually touch on your manager, because
Yeah.
I think he's done such a good job, since he's taken over. And you know what, he is quite likable as well. I think he seems like a really down to earth guy as well. I think he's very liked by the media as well, by a lot of people. I wanted just to get your thoughts on him so far. I mean, he's not been here too long. I suppose for the future, what do you kind of expect from him? Do you feel like he will take you guys to maybe either challenging? Do you think you could challenge under him for the league? Do you think you could start winning a lot more things as a club?
I hope so, but he's got to be backing
Yeah,
is one thing and giving someone time is the other. Because you look at Maurizio Pochettino's time at Spurs, I can see it being similar in terms of the duration that he's here.
yeah,
Where he's there, I don't know what it was with Pochettino, first say 5-6 years, and it done very well. It was back, not really backed really apart from the
mm,
early days, but he was given time up until we got to that Champions League final the season after, because they put so much in the Champions League final. England played, I think it was the World Cup as well that summer. The players were absolutely knackered, and up until October, November, we had an awful run. But what you do is
yeah,
you back the manager and bring in fresh, players, new ideas in January. And we didn't do that, and we got rid of him. And never
mm,
since. I think we've been, since 2019, it's been a backward trajectory rather than Liverpool got to Champions League final. And they're
yeah,
thinking, what can we do to get there and
mm,
win next year? But we just took the wrong approach to it, and we're suffering from this very day. But I like Ange Postecoglou.
mm,
He's a likable guy. A lot of us are moaning towards the end of the season. Oh, he's not being
mm,
flexible. And I think he was frustrated with how it panned out. But ultimately, we would have taken fifth. He's got to be given time because his style, Sophie, is
mm,
I mean, you probably know it. It's very expansive. Like we'd be left with one or two defenders at the back, and that
mm,
will lead to mistakes. We've seen that Van der Ven against Newcastle, so it's got to be absolutely perfect. But the problem is, like with Newcastle, is our forward line, their touch isn't good enough, their finishing isn't good enough. So there's a lot of pressure on the defence. And when we lose games 4 or 5-0, it looks awful, and you think, oh, Tottenham been battered, but we're
yeah,
having all of the ball, but we're just doing nothing with it.
mm,
We've got no one to. There's Bray who takes a shot. Madison was really poor in periods last season. So we've got the players, but we also need to add to that forward line because, Richarlison, Brennan Johnson, and Werner, without any disrespect. And I'm glad they're all here. And I think we have to keep them with being in Europe as options,
mm,
but none of them really scared. Like if I talk to you about Arsenal,
yeah,
Arteta, he's not going to be scared of any of them. He'd be scared of Madison. He'd
yeah,
be scared of
mm,
other bits like that in midfield, Basuma driving, etc. He won't be afraid of that front three. He might be afraid of
yeah,
Son, etc. So we do have to really improve that. But Ange is a likable guy. He needs
mm,
time, and I like for the future. At the same time, what we're going to do this season, because the future won't be great if we don't improve now. We need to get there
exactly, yeah,
by improving also. So it's that balance. I think we I'm happy with what we've done with young players, but we have to focus on this first team because the way I look at it, Sophie, you finish fifth and you go into the same starting 11 the season after. You've had teams like Aston Villa, West Ham improved, then you're probably going to be below fourth when we've got Europa League as well. We had no Europe last season. So it is slightly worrying from that point of view, but obviously the transfer window's not over yet. We've had the Euros,
Yeah,
we've had, etc. Different bits, friendlies in that pre-season, but now hopefully we can see players coming in. With in talks with more players. Apparently, we're going to see at least one person in the forward line come in. But yeah, Ange's a likable guy. He's really, really good. I think he's got lessons to learn, to be honest with you. And I think,
yeah,
I don't think he thinks it's as easy as it is in the Scottish Premiership. I think he expects to come in and win straight away. And I think, that's why he's a bit rattled towards the end of the season. He hasn't been in this position before. So a little bit of patience is needed from everyone at the club. But I think he's the right guy in 3-4 years'
yeah,
time to take us to compete. And it's not necessarily sitting here, Sophie, and going, yeah, I want to have the Pep Guardiola era that he's had at Man City, but it's getting to finals
yeah,
again and having that chance where we were under Pochettino, just getting back to where we were. That's the frustrating thing. We're a better team as well. But the only thing I would say to finish my kind of little segment is that we had defensive managers like Mourinho, Nuno, and Conte, where we had an awful defence but a really good attack. Yeah, which wasn't helpful. And then we have an attacking manager, and our defence is really, really good. That back four is really solid, but we're not very good going forward. So the club
yeah.
have done it wrong in that order, really. So that's really frustrating. Yeah, we had a really good attack at one point, but that's lost with Kane. But never mind. But Ange's a likable guy.
Yeah, how do you like kind of feel about how you play? Because I know you've said as well. I mean, when I watched some of you last season, you started off really well, and you did really good. But like you said, defensively at times, you did struggle a bit. Like when you
Yeah.
watch your team, do you feel like that's how you like to watch them? I mean, Arsenal's style of play, to be honest, I mean, over the last few years, I mean, has changed a bit. I mean, now I look at Arsenal and like, I love how we're playing. I mean, I know under like during lockdown times where we were pretty bad, there were times where I'm like, I'm not happy with what we're seeing, but we might be getting results. I mean, I always think football is about getting results, but you kind of do like to watch your team play a nice style of football. So, how do you sort of feel about how you sort of play?
I don't speak for the fan base when I say this, but you
Mm,
mentioned it there. For me, football is results, and of course,
yeah,
you want your team to play well. If we had a really scruffy game, we got the win, I'll be absolutely delighted. But there's so many times we look at the Chelsea home game, and
yeah,
I know injuries are a part of it, red cards are a part of it, but that first half, we played the best I've seen in years, and maybe even in my lifetime. We were so good
mm,
against Chelsea. We absolutely blew them away. We done it with Liverpool at home. Yeah, we did different situations where we've blown teams away, but a majority of them we don't end up winning the game. That's the frustrating thing. I look at Wolves away; it's dominate, 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 and then we panic, and Wolves get back into the game. So you have to either get that second goal or tighten up a little bit, because I always say you can't play the same way against Manchester City, Arsenal than you do with Fleetwood Town, Macclesfield Town. You can't
yeah,
play the same way, and that's the thing. It's all good being brave on the ball, but you can't have defenders in the other team's half when you're playing teams at Man City. You will get punished, and we have been punished. But look at Newcastle; it was awful. Anfield that first half, Brighton. So we've got to tighten up, and it's about being flexible as a manager. It's about going, I
mm,
believe in principles in the system. At the same time, in a year or so's time, we get, well, let's say Europa League, we get a top team, we go in the Champions League, we play Real Madrid at the Bernabeu. We can't be having a crazy high line on our halfway line, up
yeah.
against Benzema and players like that. It's just criminal. So it's about a little bit of flexibility, I think, more than anything.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like as well, if you win the league or if you win, a cup by, not playing the best, but you get the results, I mean, you can't complain about that. I think it is about results in football, especially, if you have those tough games. I mean, it's like if Arsenal had, Madrid in like a final or a semi-final and we played bad, but we won, you wouldn't complain because you need to, you want to win these type of things. But yeah, I think as well, it's always nice to. I mean, it's a bit like England as well. You could say that. I mean,
Yeah.
I know we didn't do good in the final, but up until that point, I thought we were quite boring to watch. But you look at it, we got the results, every game up until the final, and I think I'm someone that likes to enjoy the football that I'm watching as well as results. But I know sometimes you have to sort of win ugly by getting those results. But I think as well next season I think it'll be interesting to see how you guys do get on. I think a lot of it is down to as well. I mean, a bit like Arsenal, who you do bring in because
Yeah.
every season everyone will improve. I mean, Man City, even though their squad's amazing, they'll still bring in players. So I think it's about improving each season. And I wanted to ask you a bit about Arsenal going into next season
Yeah.
because obviously the back of last season, I kind of accepted. When I sort of knew it was over with the Villa game, I think I sort of accepted they were going to win it. So I didn't feel as disappointed as the season before, and I'm sort of glad that we went all the way and we didn't give up like we have done usually. Um, but next season, like, what are your thoughts? Like, what do you sort of expect Arsenal to do? Because I think for me, obviously, I expect us to compete, but I mean, the question is like, can we, get over that line and do it? I mean, Arteta has won us stuff before. I know
Yeah.
we've got a few community shields, and which aren't really massive, but they're still a trophy. But
Mhm.
I know the FA Cup, like I said, an FA Cup for me is amazing. But we've gotten so close to the league, and obviously we've not been able to do it. So, do you think Arteta could get us over the line next season? Like, how do you sort of feel about it?
I do, and I think last season you gave it everything against just unbeatable Manchester City team. I think you've done everything that you can against them. You went to the Etihad and get a draw. You beat them at home early in the season. It was just the Aston Villa game, the downfall, but you really pushed them. The season
Yeah.
before that, you could be disappointed
Mm.
because City weren't great. They were losing a lot of games, and then it was in your hands. But the last season was different. You'd done your part,
Yeah.
and City just kept on winning. And Villa were really, really good, and you put a lot into that. But I think the minimum requirement, I don't think it's necessarily being harsh for Arteta. And it doesn't have to be the league. I think it has to be to win a trophy. Because
Yeah.
last season, as good as they were, like if Arteta, when he leaves Arsenal, they go, I had a great time at Arsenal. I didn't win anything. Like, a lot of fans would be like, that's not great. So I think if he wins
Yeah.
an FA Cup and finishes second, that won't be the end of the world. Shouldn't be you have to win the league. The aim is to win the league. There's
Mm.
no secret. You could agree to that. A lot of people could agree to that. We have to be getting to those finals at least. You have to be like Man United got to 2 finals last year. Arsenal should be
Yeah. In
doing
that
that as
position.
well. I know that it focuses on the league, but I think that, and the same with Spurs, focus on all the competitions.
Mm.
And both clubs have got the money, and we've seen with the players, we can easily shift players. Like you've done it with Smith Rowe, you can do it with the Nketiah,
Yeah.
Nelson. We could do it with Richarlison, Emerson. There's a lot of players that we can shift and bring Lo Celso a lot of money in for. And you'd be able to spend that on having a really strong second team or having cover in every position. Like you defensively are sound, not only with the lineup, but also with the depth you have as well to be able to come in, whether it be Timber, etc. You look really, really good. Tommy Arsu. So
Yeah.
I think you're really solid defensively. But yeah, I
Yeah.
think it's that'd be fair to say that you probably do have to win a trophy next season.
Yeah, I completely agree because I know we've been quite patient as fans. I
Definitely.
mean, the first season where we challenged for the league, as a club, Arsenal should be doing that. But I felt at the time we weren't really in that place where we were doing that because we hadn't really seen Arteta ever challenge Arsenal for the league, and we've sort of just seen eight twice. And to be fair, the lockdown times were so tough, and I think now obviously we've seen him challenge with the players he's brought in as well. But I do think next season, I think if we didn't win anything, I think I'd be quite frustrated. I'm not necessarily talking about league, like you said. I think with
Yeah.
Man City and Pep, you've got to almost be perfect. So if we came close again, I'd be a bit disappointed, but I'd sort of understand. But I think if we came out empty-handed again, I wouldn't necessarily question Arteta as such, but I'd be a bit concerned that we've got another
Mm,
season. We're doing well. We're creating these amazing memories as a club, but we're not able to win anything because it's a bit like Harry Kane in a way. If his career ended, people will ask what he's won, and it's sort of like
mm,
Arteta. You look back on him,
exactly.
you like look back on a manager's career, whether that's Klopp, Mourinho, Pep,
Yeah.
and you look at what they've won. So if Arteta ended his career and not winning much at Arsenal, he wouldn't really get that credit he deserves because I know as fans, as an Arsenal fan,
Yeah.
I'm watching and he's doing an amazing job, but he's not really getting that. So I think for me, I do think a lot of fans, whether that might be Arsenal fans or other fans, do look down on a League Cup. I mean, a League Cup isn't, it's probably the smaller trophy out of most of them, but Arsenal haven't won it in such a long time. And I think if we were able to come out the season with a League Cup or an FA, well, both actually, that would be pretty decent. But I think, yeah,
I think, yeah, absolutely. And I think also, so if you look at anyone in that top 8, 10, roughly in the Premier League, your top teams that will be in and around the top half, any of them, if they treat it seriously and their priority, can win that
yeah,
competition. That's the thing. To be honest with you, Sophie, if you said to me, Harry, are you going to finish 6th, 7th, 8th, whatever it may be, that's realistic. I'm not like embarrassing, but
yeah,
when the League Cup, I'll go yes, because we haven't won a trophy since 2008. Of course, it'd be frustrated how we did
yeah,
in the
with the
league and
league,
other
yeah,
competitions, but we're bringing in a trophy. And Ange can go, okay, yeah, I didn't achieve everything I wanted to, but I won a League Cup at Tottenham. It is something to say rather than Yeah, we got fifth. Yeah, we got top four. The club seem to prioritise top four, and
Mm,
it looks like it's coming from above because there's lots of managers have had the issues with. Apparently, they've been told to rest players in these European games. I just want to see us get the trophy. And I understand top four brings in a lot of money as well, but at the
yeah.
same time, it is quite. And I'm going to hold my hands up. It is quite embarrassing when you're talking about a top four club that hasn't won a trophy for that length of time,
Mm.
and it makes you become a laughing stock, and that's the thing. And that's where I think the owners and generally in football and chairmen are a little bit out of touch. And when they like with Spurs, when they focus the business first, they don't understand how that looks for us fans.
Yeah, I think I do agree. I mean, obviously for Spurs, it'd be good for you guys to, do well in the league as well as maybe getting some like a silverware. But I think if you ask most fans, would you rather, come second to eighth and win something? You'd obviously pick winning anything every day. I mean,
Absolutely.
you look at United. I've said very much last season they had a more successful season, but also were more progressive.
Mm.
But if
Yeah, that's
if
true. Yeah.
if the, if there was a chance we could have won that FA Cup, I would have taken it any day. Obviously, I'm happy with challenging for the league, but I suppose if you're not getting anything out of it in the end, any silverware, it's a quite a bit frustrating. So I completely agree with what you said. I think when I've spoken to a lot of Arsenal fans, we do always say next season is a must, for trophies. And you know what, going into the season it's just gone, I did really think we would win something. I mean, I
Mm.
watched us at the Community Shield game. I mean, I know obviously Timber was probably my favourite player at the time. I know he got injured, etc. But I went into that season really believing that we would, win another trophy. But I think we've got to do that next season, and I really hope we can because I think as fans now, I mean, I can only speak on myself, but my patience is sort of wearing thin if next
Mm.
season comes and we're not winning anything. I think it'd be a bit worrying that we're
Boring, doesn't
doing.
it? You're the nearly team and you can't quite get there. And if you can't beat Man City, then at least you'd be focusing on other cup
Yeah,
competition. You've got to
yeah,
think what Arsenal board should be doing. I think they've done a really good job of backing Arteta, by the way. But they should be thinking this summer. Not a lot
mm,
has really happened around Arsenal, just a little bit, and all with other clubs as well. I don't exactly know what that is, but I mean, there is activity happening in terms of signings and money spent.
yeah,
It's not like that where it should be, I think. But look at Arsenal, we should be going right. Where can we improve? And to be honest with you, Sophie, I look at that striker position and go, if we bring in an Ivan Toney, or we, give whatever Newcastle want to Isak and trade a couple of players along the way, can we bring him in? You've got to be really, really ambitious. I look at Bukayo Saka, I think he's fantastic.
yeah,
He's played a lot of games though. Can you bring in cover for him to give him a rest when you
yeah. That's
need
what
him?
I've said. Yeah,
Yeah, and that third midfielder, I think Odegaard, fantastic. Rice, fantastic. I like Jorginho. Again, do you want him to play every single game? Is he up there with Manchester City's midfield? I don't think quite. Can you bring in a really strong
yeah,
third midfielder? It's about those little things, and it is ambitious and it's hard, but to get over the line, you're going to have to spend that little bit extra. And I've said it with Tottenham, at least add yourself to the Alexander Isak conversation,
yeah,
because I don't believe that they say, oh, some players aren't for sale. I don't believe that if you give them what they want, because like you're Arsenal, for example, you go, right, how much do you want for Isak? And in the deal, I'll offer you Nketiah, Nelson, any other players you want to shift along the
yeah,
way. And if it's Spurs, you go, I'll give you Richarlison, I'll give you Lo Celso, I'll give you Emerson Royale. All of a sudden, that figure drops below 80, 70 million. So it's
yeah.
realistic already. You just have to do little things like that gets you above your opposition. And I think Spurs are going to be competing with Man United, Aston Villa. So what can we do that they haven't done? And Aston Villa are having a better window than us. That's the reality.
Yeah, I mean, I think with Spurs, I mean, with Tony as well, like I know there's a bit of interest there from Spurs, but I could sort of see him, going to you guys, and I don't think you really have a problem with attracting players to come to your club because, you've had so many amazing players come to your club over the years. So I think, you make a good point. It's about what you can do better than the team just sort of facing at the moment because I think with United, I mean, it's quite interesting, really, isn't it, about them because I know they've made a few signings, but I don't expect them to really, do particularly well in the league. But it's also a point about, stopping them from winning, the FA Cups. Like I know with Spurs and Arsenal, I think we've got to put a stronger team when we play in those games because I think for me, I think it's not quite a League Cup. well, it's not quite a league title, but I think it's a good trophy. So, it's going to be interesting as well with Villa how they got on as well, because it was a big surprise them getting top four. I thought they would have probably got top five, top six, but I think for them they did deserve that position. They did really well, especially when they beat us. They definitely deserved it. So, it's going to be interesting. I wanted to actually speak on one of Arsenal signings that we've made. I think for me, I kind of want us to have a bit more of a busy window. I expect a lot of players to leave,
Mm.
like you mentioned with Nketiah. I think Reece Nelson, we should definitely move them on. But obviously, California's signs. I mean, we
Yeah.
all knew about this for a while. It's sort of we all knew. Um, but I just wanted to sort of get your thoughts on what you sort of think he could bring to Arsenal, because I'm presuming we'll probably play him at left back. I know that we've obviously got
Yeah.
a lot of options now with the likes of Tomiyasu, Kivior, Timber. So there's sort of like a lot of room. Like, do you think he would come in straight away, or do you feel like maybe Timber, Tomiyasu would play in that position first and would gradually bring him in?
That's the thing. It's good to have those competition. And you look at players like, I mean, I'm sure California can do it, but I think Tommy Tomiyasu can as well
Yeah,
play that kind of centre back role or anywhere in that defence. That's really good. But we talk about moving players on. I think you can add Shinchenko to that conversation. And I think
yeah.
he's done an okay job for Arsenal, but he's not going to win your league titles for me anyway. I think you need
No, I don't think so
that
either.
step up, to be honest with you. Yeah, so I think that California is it's a big signing. There's no doubt about it. That's the signing you want to make. I've been talking a lot in this show, and I actually forgot about him.
Yeah,
About beating Manchester City. That is the type of level signing you want. I'm surprised it's come in defence, to be honest with you, because I think you're quite strong in defence. I look at you last
yeah,
season; it was good, and I think it was on par, if not better, than Manchester City defensive. Well, yeah, probably better. But if you need to improve up front for me. But it's a player coming in. It's a top player. I think he'll be he's starting left back. So that looks really good from Arsenal. Ashin be Ben White, right back, Gabriel Saliba, Raya in goal. That back five wins you trophies. Not being that
yeah,
does win you trophies, no doubt about it. And that midfield's nearly there, and that
mm,
attack's nearly there. So that this Arsenal team's looking good. It's probably 2 players away,
yeah,
2 players away in that starting 11 from winning the title next season. And I do mean that. I think that it can be done. So yeah, California I think will bring a lot. As a player I wanted at Tottenham, I didn't think it would happen. He deserves to be fighting for titles. He's going to get that with Arsenal. It was a matter of is he going to go to Arsenal? Will Manchester City want him? And he went to Arsenal. So I think he'll be a real good asset for you.
yeah. I think it's obviously good that Arteta is sort of realizing that left back position's a little bit of. I mean, it doesn't look like a weakness, but I think a lot of us know that it's that position where,
Yeah.
with Zinchenko, like I've said with Zinchenko, at the time he was amazing, but now I just don't think we can play him. I think he makes too many mistakes defensively, and I suppose when you compete with Man City, you can't really afford to do that. Um, I think with Zinchenko, I would sell him, but I'm not really sure what's going to happen there, because, like you said, we do have a lot of players that could be on the bench. Come on, like Timber as well is another one where I think
Yeah.
I wouldn't really want him to be sat on the bench, considering how amazing he is. I know at the moment we would gradually start him because he's had that big injury, and we wouldn't want
When,
to.
and another question to you, Sophie, is do you change the system? I mean, it's pretty bold to do considering that he has done really well under Arteta.
Yeah,
Do you go to 3 at the back because you've got a lot of good defenders? And like, let's say you take one out midfield, then we haven't got that worry. Well, you haven't got that worry, should I
yeah,
say, signing that extra midfielder. But does it work? And it's hard. I mean, I'm thinking if any other system did work, and I don't think it'll happen for 1 minute. And Arteta's within his rights to keep it the same, so it has worked. But I'm thinking that next level with the players you've got, maybe a 3-5-2 could potentially work. I was trying to think, you still need that midfielder, but up top, it'd be easier to go with. You might not even need a striker. It could be, Martinelli and Saka, could be Trossard and Saka. That could look quite
yeah,
nice. There's 2 false nines. So who knows what happened? But Timber deserves to get minutes. California deserves to get
yeah.
minutes. Gabriel, a great season.
It's a
If it
good
wasn't for last
problem.
season, it's a really good problem for a manager. And if it wasn't for last season, I would have got Gabriel, out you go. But he was really good last season, and so was Saliba. So
Yeah.
defensive headache for Mikel Arteta, I think it's fair to
Yeah, I
say.
mean, I'd much rather have this problem than have, I know of injuries, we never know who could pick up injuries, so I think it's good to have a lot of options. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think going into the season, I mean, I remember when Saliba came back, there was that argument, will Ben White still play? And, you're seeing Ben White play right back, and he does really well there. So, if Arteta will want certain players to play, he will make it work. It would be interesting to see if he does sort of change the system. But I think at the moment, I think, pre-seasons, obviously, it's good to sort of test these things. So if he did want to try it, then I think that'd be a good chance. But I'm completely with you. I
Yeah.
think the signing will be, I think it'll be very good. I mean, obviously, I do want us to bring in a striker. I mean, the midfield, like you said, I think Jorginho. I think I see Jorginho as someone that wouldn't start in the games, but I suppose if Partey, I know Partey can be out a lot. Partey can be a little bit sloppy sometimes when he's not doing great. And Jorginho offers you that balance in midfield, but
How
obviously,
much do you, sorry to interrupt, how much do you think you'll get for Thomas Partey? So if it's a lot, then it might be a player you move on potentially.
yeah, I mean, I'm open to moving him on because he gets injured like half of the season, and you
Yeah.
can't rely on him, and that's the thing. You need players, you can see a Saliba or Gabriel, you can rely on them because they're going to play most games, and they're not
Mhm.
really going to be out much. The problem with Partey is, I mean, I could see him going to Saudi. I think Saudi would be a team
Yeah.
that. But the problem is, how much would we get for him because he's injured? If you want to play, you don't want a player that gets injured a lot. So I don't know. Would we get 30 for him? I don't know. Even then, I mean, it's a tough one to make because he's a fantastic player. Don't get me wrong. He's absolutely amazing on his day. He's incredible.
I think you could
Um,
hold out because it's Saudi. I think you can hold out for 40. We're talking about like even
yeah,
60 for Richarlison. I think is crazy, but it's Saudi. You can convince them about the player that's there. So I think you might be able to get 35, 40 million. And although he's a
yeah,
good player, it's frustrating because it seemed like a real good signing when Arsenal brought him in. But some players, their career are ruined by injuries. I don't see the problem going away. If you know what I mean, I don't see that
yeah.
being resolved, and Arsenal could spend that money on going towards that really, really good midfielder to compete with or start in front of Jorginho.
Yeah, I mean, I think with Partey, I know he's only got a year left, so I think I would rather get money for him than him
Yeah,
just,
yeah, exactly. You
yeah.
don't want to leave for free. That's the problem. Yeah,
Yeah, I think that's the thing because I know if if it's last season, next season, and he goes out on a free, and then we've not made much money for him, and I think now, if I was a Arteta, I would try and make the most now. But I think you'd have to find the right replacement for Partey. But to be honest with
mm,
you, we did manage without him for most of the season, and uh, I mean, when he comes in, you do notice that difference. He is a lot better, but I think Jorginho. Like, I'm happy he's still here. I think that's a good choice, but I don't think he would start every game. I couldn't see him in like a Champions League semi final, like against Madrid. I think we've got to, I mean, Man City wouldn't probably start him, so I think we've got to see, what Man City would do, and we need to just do much better. But I think
mm,
we've got to make a few more signings going into the season. But I know with Rice, he's got to have someone really good next to him. But yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see kind of who we do sign. I know Spurs as well. It'd be good to see who they sign as well. I always think it's interesting to see what other clubs do and going into the
yeah.
season. I'm sure we'll both sort of. I do think Spurs should get top four. I hope we can win something. I'll be happy to finally win something. Fingers crossed. But I just wanted to thank you so much for coming on my channel because I've thoroughly enjoyed this. It's been really good to just chat away with you. Yeah, thank you so much for coming on.
No, thank you. As I said earlier, it is a real honour. So thank you very much for asking. Obviously, been trying to do this for a while, so it's great to agree a date that we can both do. So no, it's been fantastic. So yeah, just want to say to everyone listening, and they already know this, and I'm sure they're already doing it. But Sophie's does amazing work. So don't forget to smash the subscribe button to our channel if you haven't already. You won't regret it. Got a lot of content on there, interviewing top people, some top questions, and some top guests. So yeah, keep up the great work. I always do try and watch it out of what you do, and no, it brings a smile because you're doing really well, Sophie. So keep on smashing it.
Oh, thank you so much. I do really appreciate that. And I would really advise people to check out Harry's channel, which is Scarfy Spurs Talk, where he chats about Spurs, the transfers. And yeah, we'll definitely do something as well when the season comes, when we
Yeah,
play each other, definitely. And yeah, please do go over to subscribe to his channel, please, guys. Those that are watching this, it would be much appreciated. But before I do end this, please don't forget to smash the like button on this video. Do subscribe. I hope you do enjoy this video. It was really good fun to chat a bit about Arsenal, about Spurs. Fingers crossed, but make some more signings as well. And yeah, I will see you all in my next video. Bye, guys.